The movie starts in 1930 when Wilfred James is walking around Omaha. He goes into a hotel room, looks around, and then sits down to write a confession for a crime he did in 1922. He starts by saying that the problem that led to his crime was his wife's land. Arlette Christina Winters James, Wilfred's wife, owned 100 acres of land in Hemingford, Nebraska. Her father had given her the land after he died, and Wilfred wanted to combine it with his own 80-acre farm. Eventually, the land was given to their son Henry Freeman. James's father, Wilfred, thought that a man's pride was a man's land in 1922, and so did his son. The main problem was that Arlette didn't like farming, so she wanted to sell her part of the land to the Farmington Corporation. At dinner one night, Wilfred asked Arlette what she planned to do with the money from the sale of the land. Arlette said she would move to Omaha and start a business with the money. Henry, however, was against the idea. Wilfred, angry, promises to buy the land from her and pay her back over the next 8 years. She laughs at his idea and makes another suggestion. She wants them to sell both of their homes, split the money, and then get a divorce. Wilfred is very against it, mostly because he would have to be apart from Henry. Wilfred asks her to think about it for a while. In the meantime, he thinks about calling the police, but his dislike for Arlette keeps him from doing so. He tells her that he won't let her sell the land without a fight. That day, he finds Henry and his girlfriend Shannon Cottery in the basement. Shannon is the girl next door. Wilfred decides to take advantage of Henry and Shannon's relationship. He has a fight with Henry over his mother telling him she wants to split him up from his father and Shannon. During dinner that night, Wilfred tries to get Henry to help him kill his own mother. Henry lashes out at Arlette and tells her to leave so they can be a family again. Arlette asks that he be punished and taught a lesson. She tells them that she will sell the land and bring Henry to Omaha no matter what. Arlette wants to start a dress business in the area. Wilfred takes her upstairs, puts her to bed, and then goes to get help from Henry. Henry wishes there was another way, but Wilfred convinces him that killing Arlette is the only way for him and Shannon to be together. Later, when Henry walks into a room, he finds Wilfred holding a knife. Slowly, Wilfred with a knife and Henry with a sack walk into the room. Henry cries and says goodbye to his mother before putting her to sleep with a sack. Wilfred then kills her by stabbing her, and blood gets all over. Wilfred killed his wife in 1922 with the help of his son. After that, Wilfred and Henry put a bed sheet over Arlette's body and carried her outside. Henry collapses before they can get rid of the body, so Wilfred drags the body and dumps it in a nearby drive well. The father and son then clean up the blood on the ground. Wilfred also gathers the bloody mattress and all of Arlette's belongings to throw into the well. When he opens the well's cover to do this, he finds that Arlette is still alive. Wilfred makes up a story that she ran away to a place they don't know, but no one believes him. When the Farmington Company's lawyer comes to look for Arlette a few days later, he hears the same story. The lawyer seems confused as to why she would pass up such a great chance to sell the land, but he can't do anything about it. Wilfred needs to find a way to fill the well quickly, so he brings a cow and puts its stand on the well's lid. The cover falls with the weight of the cow and falls to the bottom, but it still moves, so Wilfred shoots it. He and Henry then muddied the mice-infested well. The lawyer calls the town sheriff to their home that day, and he searches the house to make sure that the family is not hiding Arlette. Wilfred shows him her clothes and things, and they tell him to look at the buried well as he's getting ready to leave. Wilfred says that summer was the best time for the farm's crops to grow, and he thinks that this was because Satan was punishing him for being bad. Shannon is worried about how strange Henry is acting. Wilfred was told about her worries. She thinks he is having affairs with other girls at his school. Wilfred tells her that this is not true. She then expresses regret for Arlette's disappearance. The cows on the farm started making a lot of noise. When Wilfred went to check, he found the cow shed overrun with rats. The rats had come in through a pipe that led to the well. Wilfred threw up at the sight. He then put a hand. Wilfred is writing this in his notebook when he hears a mouse cry in the back. The next day, Henry comes to the house to tell Sharon that she is going to have his first child. Wilfred tells Henry that he is too young to get married. Henry brings up his mother and says that she would have given him money to run away with Sharon. Harlan C. Sharon's father walks in. He is the richest farmer in town. Wilfred is jealous of his new Cadillac and home water pipeline, but he is most jealous of his faithful wife. He plans to put Sharon in a Catholic home in Omaha until she gives birth, at which point she will give the baby up for adoption. He tells Wilfred that he should have let Arlette sell the 100 acres to Farmington. If he had, he would have had money and a beautiful wife. Henry won't send Sharon away. Instead, he tells Wilfred that they should run away. Henry yells at his father that he can't tell him what to do. He blames Wilfred for his mother's death and tells him there is another way. When Henry goes to school the next day, Wilfred searches Arlette's things for any money she might have saved. He finds $20 in her hat. The next day, he drives to a bank to get a $35 loan to pay Harlan Cody. He stays for a while, but his truck is. Wilfred is reading a book alone that night, but the memory of Arlette's death keeps coming back to him. He is startled when a drop of blood falls into his book, but when he looks up, he sees that it is just his leaking ceiling. He can't sleep that night, and the next day, the town sheriff tells him that a robbery happened in a nearby town, and Wilfred thinks Henry might have done it. Wilfred, on the other hand, tells him that his son is a gentleman and would never do something like this. The next day, Wilfred gets a $700 mortgage. He needed the money to fix the roof leak, but more importantly, he needed to work to keep himself sane during the winter. When he gets home with the money, a rat bites his hand, seriously injuring it. He steps on the rat, crushing and bloodying it on the floor. He uses one hand to help his hurt hand and the other to clean the blood off the floor. He takes off the bandage on his hand too. Wilfred then runs into the basement. He slips down the stairs, and when he looks up, he sees hundreds of rats and a sick body coming in through the door. The rats come up to Wilfred and surround him, and he is confronted by a ghost named Arlette. Wilfred says she told him secrets that only a dead woman could know. She tells him that Henry has turned into a robber in the city. He was able to smuggle Sharon out of the Catholic home. Together, they were known as the Sweetheart Bandits and killed several people. She tells him that Sharon was shot and her child died. Wilfred begs her to stop and just kill him. He asks her to cut his throat like he did hers, but she wants to. Wilfred listens in pain as she gives him a hint about the death of his son, whom he loved the most. Wilfred goes to a doctor a few days later to check on his wound. The infection has spread so far that it has to be cut off. The sheriff tells Wilfred that the body of a woman found in a ditch is thought to be Arlette. Wilfred agrees with the story. After a few days, Henry's body is brought to the village by train. When Wilfred arrives at the station, he is immediately surrounded by reporters who ask him about Henry's death. He is terrified. He says that no father should have to say goodbye to his son, but he deserves it because he has hurt other people. Wilfred offers to sell 100 acres of land to Shannon's father, but Shannon's father tells him that he has no other choice but to leave the area and never come back. When he sells it to a cattle company, he takes a low price. Wilfred uproots his life and moves to Omaha, where he quickly gets a job moving pallets. By the time he finishes writing this, the rats in his hotel room will have completely taken over, and the dead bodies of Arlette, Henry, and Sharon will be right in front of him. Henry is seen here with the knife he used to kill our main character earlier. Wilfred says, "In the end, we all get caught," which is the last line of the movie's narration. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.